Hello everyone, thanks for joining us today. My name is Madeline Kardos and I'm the Marketing and Communications Associate here at GuideStar. I'd like to officially welcome you to our work session today, What's New with Your GuideStar Nonprofit Profile? All right, before we get started today, I'd like to introduce my co-host, Jasmine Morrow, who is our Director of Nonprofit Strategy here at GuideStar. Jasmine, you can go ahead and say a word. There you go. All right. Let's see. You'll be hearing from her later on in our presentation. All right, just a couple of notes and reminders. First of all, we are recording today's event, so don't worry if you'd like to go back and review any of the conversation today. You will receive an email within a few days with links to the slides and the recording from today's presentation. Next, we've blocked off time throughout today's presentation to answer your questions. To submit a question, just look in the control panel off to the side of your screen. You'll find a questions box there. Just type your question and send away. If you see only the questions header but not the box, select the arrow to the left to enable the questions box. Our hope is to answer all of your questions today during this event, but if we're unable to get to yours, please rest assured that we will reach out to you directly with an answer to hopefully get you pointed in the right direction. So send any questions our way. All right, here's our agenda for today. First, we're going to run through some of the basics just to make sure we're all on the same page here. This includes how to claim your organization's nonprofit profile and some brief information on the GuideStar Seals of Transparency. Next, we'll take a look at the new features we've added to the profiles. We'll explain why we added them and, most importantly, best practices for using them. Lastly, we'll share some key information that donors are looking for on your profile. All right, so we're actually going to pause here for a second just to ask you, what are you most excited to learn about today? All right, just a few more seconds here. Go ahead and submit your vote. All right, perfect. So it looks like most of you are interested in these best practices for using our new features, which is perfect, and we will get to that very, very soon. All right. Oops, excuse me. There we go. Before we dive into specifics, let's briefly start at the basics here. So what is a GuideStar nonprofit profile? It's a report that GuideStar creates by using information from the IRS. So if you file a Form 990 with the IRS every year, your organization already has a nonprofit profile on GuideStar. And if you've ever taken the time to read the full 30 pages of a Form 990, then you'll know why we created the nonprofit profiles. Accounting jargon swarms each page. Information can be really hard to find. So to make things easier, GuideStar took on the task of digitizing these tax forms and putting them in a highly digestible format, which is exactly what you see in front of you, the nonprofit profile. Okay, so your organization already has a profile on GuideStar. How do you gain access to it? It's a fairly easy process. You just want to make sure that you have your organization's employee identification number on hand, or your EIN. Here's the first step. If you don't already have an account with GuideStar, go ahead and create one by going to www.guidestar.org and clicking the top right-hand button, Create Account. You'll be prompted to fill out a few web forms, and then you'll be on your way. If you already have an account with GuideStar, all you to do is click Sign In, also located on our homepage to the right of Create Account. Next, You're going to click the Update Nonprofit Profile button located at the top of our homepage. In fact, this button is pretty much visible on any page on our site, so just go to the top toolbar there and click Update Nonprofit Profile. All right, the next step here is to click the blue Get Started Now button. We're almost there. All right, the next step is to enter your organization's employer identification number, the EIN, and click Request Permission. A pro tip here is to be sure to include the hyphen in the EIN. Another quick side note is that if you are just creating a GuideStar account for the first time, you may need to verify your email address first before moving on to the final step. All right, at last, this is our final step. So once you click Request Permission, a web form will appear on your screen, such as this one. All you have to do is fill in the required fields, such as your name and email address, and click Submit Request at the bottom of the web page. Our amazing stakeholder support team will approve your request within 1 to 2 business days, and then you're off to the races. All right, so you're in your profile, you're taking a look around, and you're going to notice that you're only showing basic information. But you can share a whole lot more information by earning a GuideStar Seal of Transparency. The Seals of Transparency are not a rating. Each level is just a step further in telling your organization's full story. And more importantly, each step is completely free to achieve. It just takes a little bit of your time. Here's a really brief rundown of each seal. So bronze is basic information so you can be found. Silver is financial information so you can increase trust. Gold is all about long-term goals and strategies so you can tell your story. And platinum shows the difference you're making by sharing year-to-year metrics. And of course, Jasmine will give you a little more information on this in just a moment. All right, to wrap up the basics here, we've talked about what a nonprofit profile is, how to gain access to one, and the different types of information that you can share. But how does your profile help you? So your profile is actually one of the best free marketing tools out there. That's because GuideStar has over 8 million unique visitors to our site, but it doesn't really stop there. GuideStar powers over 200 charitable websites and applications, including Amazon Smile, Facebook, Network for Good, and Just Give, and that's just to name a few. GuideStar also powers all major US-based donor-advised funds, so in just a few hours, you can provide up-to-date information to all of these sources in one go. This is kind of a personal anecdote here, but I once worked with a man who had spent 6 months correcting his organization's address on 80 different websites. And unfortunately for him, GuideStar was his last stop. If he had come to GuideStar 6 months sooner, all 80, and of course more of these websites would have been updated much, much sooner. All right, we're just going to take a few minutes here to answer some of your questions before we move on to our next part.
Okay, so it looks like we have a couple of questions. Madeline, would you mind telling us how much it costs to achieve each of the seal levels?
Not at all. It's free, totally free to earn any of the seals.
That's great. And how long does it take to get to platinum or gold?
Ooh, that's a really good question. So it only takes a little bit of time. So bronze and silver will take you under 30 minutes. Gold might take you a little longer, maybe about an hour, and platinum can usually take about an hour less if you already have that information on hand.
All right, awesome. It looks like that's all the questions we have right now, and then we'll be sure to ask more questions or leave time for asking questions more at the end as well.
All right, perfect. So that actually concludes my portion. I'm going to switch it over to Jasmine here, and please remember, if you do have questions, feel free to submit them anytime during the webinar. We will get to them. So without further ado, I'm going to send it over to Jasmine.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. So I want to talk a bit about what is new on the profiles and just kind of get you oriented to all of the interesting changes that we've made. So just for a little bit of background, the reason that these changes have come about are mostly from listening to our partners and customers. So as Madeline mentioned, there's information that is shared on the GuideStar nonprofit profile, and then also through a ton of clients and customers and their clients and customers. So that's just a bunch of individual donors and other kinds of givers. So we always want to make sure that your information is clean and clear for them. And so we've done a lot of work around that topic. So I want to just take you on a quick tour of the interface that you use to update your profile and look at what's new. So let me get there. And so I'm here at the GuideStar homepage. And what I want to do before I do anything else is sign in. So I'm going to hit that sign in, and this is, of course, so let's assume that I've done all of the claiming my profile and I've been approved. I've done that process that Madeline walked you through. So then I just start at sign in. So I go ahead and sign in. And now I'm back at the home page. So I'm going to hit Update Nonprofit Profile again, and this time, because I'm all signed in and I've done all that process, it takes me right to the page where I sign in to edit. So I click GuideStar, and I'm here. So the first thing that you'll see is this great pop-up. So this gives you just a little teaser about what's to come. So shorter text fields, new sections for routing your donations, maps, and some cool new seal looks. And of course, we're going to cover all of this. I will mention that this webinar specifically is all about the new features. So I'm going to walk through those in detail, but if you've got any other questions about any other parts of the profile, there's a really robust section in the community that can help you, and of course, you can always feel free to reach out to all of us, and we're happy to walk you through. So this is the section that you see when you first log in. This is what we call the summary page. So right up top, you can see that there's a progress bar. So for each section, you can see what percentage you've completed and how much you have to go. When you log in and you haven't filled in the new features, or you haven't been in since that's happened, you might notice that your bronze bar is a little bit lower, and that's because the vast majority of our new required fields are in bronze. So you'll get a little visual cue there that'll just say, say you were at 100%, let's say you were at gold before, and it says 100% gold, 100% silver, 67% bronze. That's because you've got a couple fields that you want to fill out. So when you're looking for those fields, what you want to do is go over to this left-hand navigation bar, and I'll talk a bit about this in a second, but you can click any of these down arrows, and you'll see a little marker that says New. And so those are, of course, all of our new fields. If you've never been in this section before, and you're not familiar with the seals of transparency, these bronze, silver, gold, platinum drop-downs might not mean a ton to you, but know that you can always click them and find out, what pieces of information are in each section. So that's a really great way to think about it. And always try to just start at bronze and work your way through. And one thing that pop-up mentioned that I'll just show you really quickly here is that we've got a beautiful new look for the seals of transparency. One thing that's especially important is that they have the year on them, so you can always signal that you are really up to date with your information. So this year's platinum is what you've earned, next year's platinum, etc. So I want to start in the bronze section. And one change that you'll notice throughout is that a ton of our text fields are shorter. So before, you used to be able to write your mission statement in 3,000 characters, but some feedback that we got, especially around mobile giving platforms, is that they wanted things to be a lot more succinct and short so that readers could digest it and make their giving decisions more easily. So that's a change that's happening throughout, and then there's also, of course, some really specific changes. So let's start at the top here with donation info. And I'll just give a second for the page to load so everyone can see it. And the donation information section is really to help you receive checks and donations easily. So the idea around this is that a ton of folks don't necessarily have their checks sent directly to, say, their physical address. And we wanted to make sure that that was really clear for any organization that that wasn't the case for. If all of your information is the same and you don't really need to fill this out, you just click the same as main address section, and that'll still get you there too. So that's one thing to think about. So other than that, it's just kind of where should you be sent money. So let's say you're a chapter of a larger organization. Sometimes you send it to the larger organization, sometimes it gets sent directly to you. This is where you can kind of share all that information. If your payment address is not the same as your main address, then you can go ahead and fill that out. But when you're filling in this section, what you want to be thinking is, where do I want my money to go? I was speaking to one woman who they don't have chapters and they don't have affiliates, but their treasurer does prefer that the money just be sent directly to their bank. And so that's what she filled in there. So this next new section is in leadership and staff. So the thing that we've added here that we're pretty excited about is a link to your LinkedIn URL. So that way, I mean, of course, you can continue to share a bio, and that's really great, but a lot of people really actively use LinkedIn, and so we wanted to give you the opportunity to put something in there. It's also a lot easier for just keeping it updated because people tend to keep their personal LinkedIns updated. So as long as that link stays the same, all the information there will be sort of consistently updating. And that's it for that section. So let's go ahead and go to brand. We've got a couple of new and interesting things there. So the first thing that you'll see is this logo section. So in order to really help your organization to stand out and be clean and clear, Google and Amazon and PayPal sent us their requirements for what they'd like to see in a logo. So you can see some of these here as far as the file type, so SFG, PNG, that sort of thing, and then also some size requirements. So you want it to be less than 1 megabyte just so that it'll fit, but you do want it to have good, strong resolution, and kind of try to keep it in this particular aspect ratio or larger. So what that'll do is it just helps a lot with formatting. It helps a lot for you to be seen clearly and easily on their websites. And so there's requirements up top here, and so you've got to have it be the right size, you've got to have it be the right resolution, and then there's preferences. So these are things that really help you show up well on Google and Amazon and PayPal, and you want to try to get to these as much as you can, but we recognize that you might not be able to. And so so a logo is a required field. You can see by that little red asterisk. But if you don't have a logo, that's fine. You just check this box here that says I don't have a logo, and you can move right on. So next comes tagline, and this is a totally new section. So one request that we got a ton from these mobile giving platforms was to share a tagline. A tagline is, it's shorter than your mission statement, but it really encapsulates the work that you do. So I listen to NPR a lot, so the one that I hear all the time is from the MacArthur Foundation, and it's working to create a more just and virulent society, right? So that's one example. GuideStars is better data, better decisions, better world. And so you can see here just in this tooltip that it's just a short signature phrase, and that it'll show up on mobile. So if you've got one of these, it's a really great idea to share it, but if you don't, just go ahead and click this no tagline section, and that's just fine too. This is a required field, same as logo, but there's a way to get around it if you don't have one. You can still earn bronze, you can still be showing up well. Yeah, but it is also something to think about, and that's important. So lastly in this section is website. And so it's again a required field, but you don't have to. If you don't have a website for any reason, you can go ahead and click that. I will just let you know that also a Facebook page counts. So if you've got a Facebook page and you don't have, you know, a domain, that's completely fine. And you can also just add that right in here too. So next,
Hey, Jasmine.
hi there.
Sorry to butt in here. We actually had a really good question before you pop on to the next section here. For the LinkedIn URL, is that supposed to go to your personal page or the company page?
So that is for the CEO's bio. So that's their personal page. That's a great question.
All right, and one other tiny question just before you move on. So for sections that have character limits, does it show what character limit it is?
Yes. So right under here, you can see I'm highlighting it here. So just under the box, you can always see the character limit and how many characters you've used so far.
Perfect. Thanks, Jasmine.
No problem. So let's go ahead and move on to mission and programs. And you can see here, here's one of the examples of a much shorter character limit than we'd had before. So now you want to make sure that your mission statement fits in 800 characters. So if you have a much longer mission statement that you tend to use, go ahead and just use, you know, the most prominent parts of that mission statement. And that's going to help your profile be a ton more glanceable and just quickly readable, which will really help just a ton of users better understand your organization instead of glazing over and possibly clicking away. So I want to show you this program section. So of course you can always edit any of these. So I'll just go to one that we've already got. Here's the name of my program. A new requirement that we have is description. So description has always been there, but it's now required. And that's just a really brief description of what your program does and what it aims to serve. Your budget, which continues to not be required, but we do highly recommend it, and a target population. And you can choose from this drop down here. So one thing that we're really excited about having added is this geographic area served. So this has been requested mostly from a lot of foundations. What this does is it talks about your organization's programs in terms of where you're serving as opposed to in terms of where you're located. So let's say, so GuideStar, for example, as you can see, we have several locations, but we really serve a national audience. Now we're on the internet, and we could say that we serve an international audience, but we don't really, because the vast majority of the nonprofits that are listed are United States-based nonprofits, so we want to try to really reflect the work that we're doing in that way. A thing that comes up for some folks is having a couple of different areas that you serve. So let's say you're located in California, but part of your program also spreads up to Washington and over to Texas. You can enter all of those here. So you just start typing. I'm going to type in San Francisco, so you can see that there. You will also notice that, so I'm typing in San Francisco, and what's come up is county, and that's fine because you can also share counties here. But I'm going to click San Francisco, the city, and you can see that that'll show up there. There's a little pin marker. I live in Alameda County, so I'll just go ahead and share that and grab that, and you can see that that shows up as well. So the different kind of location bounds that you can have are city, county, state, and country. You can choose up to 5 of any of these. Right now, when you choose a country that's outside of the United States, you're really going to just get that country and not necessarily cities within that country. That's something that we're working on, but For now, you can see that it'll zoom you out and it'll highlight that entire country. And I'm going to delete some of these because I don't want them to save. You can save up to 5 of these. And so that'll give you kind of a nice wide range. If you've got more than 5, you want to think about how you might group those. So if it's, say, a couple of different counties, say it's 7 different counties in one state, maybe you want to choose that state to kind of cover that area in a different way. So once you shared your location, which is also a required field, then you've really kind of shared all of the information about your programs. And so when you're thinking about location, you're thinking about it for each program as opposed to for your organization as a whole. So if your programs overlap in the same area, that's great. That's totally fine. In fact, that's the case for GuideStar as well. So we just write the same location again, and that's completely fine because sometimes your organization's information is shared by program and sometimes it's shared by overall organization, and so we want to make sure that both of those stories are shared equally and really clearly. So I'm going to go ahead and move down the line. We've made a couple of changes in the silver section. I want to show you that really quickly.
Hey Jasmine, sorry to interrupt you once more. A few quick questions on the maps just to cover, if you don't mind running back there real fast.
Sure.
Someone asked, how do you access those maps? Where did you go?
Okay, great. So that is in your program section. So as you are, and I'm just going to let this load for just a second, as you're filling in your programs in mission and programs, that's there. So when I got there, I hit edit because I have an existing program. And so that's, your program name, the description, budget, all of that. You can also add a new program if you haven't added any, and this will all show up blank, and it's the same thing.
Perfect. And then the second question was, can you add more than one target population served?
Absolutely. So right now it's just 2. So target population served 1 and 2. And that usually gets the vast majority of folks. If that's not you, that's okay too. And you can kind of add that in your description or those kinds of things.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great. So let me go to the silver section. And the big change that we've made here is in the fiscal year. So because we've shifted over to this new annual seal level, we also want to make sure that you're reflecting your current financial information. So you want to make sure that your date range for your fiscal year is up to date. So let's say I hadn't updated this and it's since 2012. When I try to exit out of this, it will tell me it usually tells me that it needs to be a more recent year. And it doesn't feel like it right now, but it does usually. So if I hit save, well.
Hi, Jasmine. I think that's because we currently have a 2016 audit uploaded, which is the other option for the Silver Seal.
Great, thank you. That is exactly what's going on. So as always, and that's a great reminder, let's just talk about that really quickly. As always, there are 2 ways to earn your Silver Seal of Transparency. You can either upload an audited financial statement or fill in the fields. And either is totally fine. If you don't have an audited financial statement yet, that's completely fine, and you can always just fill this in. I'm going to go ahead and change this back so that we're not stuck later. But if you haven't uploaded in an audited financial, you want to make sure that you've updated these dates in addition to updating this information here that asks for your revenue and all of that information. Are there other questions before I move away from silver? Okay, great. So I'm going to next take us over to the gold section. So the new section that we have here is called issue. And what issue is, and I'm just going to introduce it a bit as it loads, is a place where you can articulate the problem or need that your organization is working to address. So that's a really just brief summary of, it's akin to a problem statement, but you don't have to think of it exactly that way. But you're kind of saying why you exist in the world and what makes that important. So it's just really quick, and it shows up at the top of the profile page. It really kind of influences the way that folks think about the rest of your work. So of course there's your mission statement, and that's much more robust. This is a chance to give a bit of background about that, right? So if your mission statement is, we do X to eradicate Y, this section is all about what makes Y not great and what makes Y a problem in the world. What are some statistics about homelessness in your area, or opportunities that you are uncovering and wanting to seize, those kinds of things. It's still going to be relatively quick, so it's 1,000 characters. Do you want to kind of articulate that and move on? This is not a required field. So if you want to think about it for a bit longer and things like that, that's totally fine. You can still earn the gold seal of transparency without filling this in, but we do encourage you to, because it really adds more context to your overall profile. So, and then of course, the rest of gold has remained entirely the same. These are the 5 charting impact questions. They're really designed to kind of capture your organization's theory of change in long form. So what are your goals? What are your strategies for achieving those? What makes you uniquely capable of doing that? How will you know once you've gotten there, and where are you in this journey so far? Those are kind of the big questions that you're answering there in the gold section. And before I move on to platinum, are there other questions that are coming up, Madeline, in this section?
Not for this section. Just to reiterate that the need issue is totally optional and it won't be required.
Great. Yep. So let's go ahead and move on to platinum. And the big thing to know here for the platinum section is when you are wanting to earn a 2017 Seal of Transparency, you need to just update at least one metric to the year 2016. So you can see here for us that we don't have one updated. We have 8 total that we've shared, and about 7 of those have a 2016 metric, have a number associated with that we've updated after the year ended. And so as long as you do at least one, you're golden. And of course, we encourage you to do more. That's of course always something that's wonderful, but once you've updated at least one to the year 2016, you're good to go. So that's it for my demo. Do we have any questions around platinum before I kind of show you guys some quick recaps?
We actually have some questions from some of the other sections. If you don't mind briefly dipping back into them, that might address a few before we do a quick recap. So we actually had a question about keywords. And since we did cover the bronze seal, someone asked, is there a place to enter keywords?
There is. So the place that you will enter keywords is down here in the categorization section. So I'll just scroll down through it. It's right here at the bottom. So that's this section right here. Now the way that you want to think about keywords is what someone would type in the GuideStar search to find you. So not necessarily, like this, you don't need to relate it back to buzzwords about your organization or names of your programs unless they're really famous. This is more about kind of how you can better be found. Any others?
Just a reiteration of the silver seals. So if you have an audit, is that all you need?
Yes. So it's an either or. So if you've got an audited financial statement, go ahead and upload it right here by clicking Add Financial Document, and you're good to go. If you don't, that's totally fine too, and then you fill this out. We like to fill out both just because it makes it really readable for everyone, and that's a great best practice if you'd like to adopt that, but you don't have to.
All right, and then 3 other kind of key questions here. The first one is, you talked about a Facebook link, but is there anywhere else on the profile that we can put other social media handles?
Great question. So there's a section down here called Social and Media. And so let's go ahead and click that. So here's a second place to put your website and your blog if you've got one. And then we've got a couple of other social media handles. So Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. What you want to remember here is that you're not putting in the whole URL. You're not like grabbing this up here. You're just writing in your social media handle, and we'll do the rest. We'll do all of that linking for you.
Perfect. Another question that's kind of popped up frequently is, I've made these changes, but I'm not seeing them on my profile. Am I missing a step?
Great question. So once you've made changes, you'll see a button down here. There's a couple places that this button shows up, but you can see here that it says Profile Status. You have unpublished changes, and you want to click the Publish Changes Now button to go ahead and have that appear on your profile. So it'll either appear there or at the bottom of whatever page you're on. Ready to publish changes? Publish changes now. So once you hit that, and I'll go ahead and hit it. Once you hit that, you'll go to a confirmation screen where what you'll see is just you kind of confirming the information that's there, and then you're good to go. So here you go. I certify that these are correct, and I have permission to make these changes. I accept the terms of use, and I'm good to go. I finish and publish. Now, you might not see those changes instantaneously, but you will see them. So it takes up to 24 hours, you can see that here, and then the changes will be clear on your website. Sorry, on your profile.
And Jasmine, is there a way to get an image of the seal to put on a website or put on, press release materials of some sort?
Sure is. So let me just hit the back button. And the place that you want to do that is called the Outreach Toolkit. So you want to hit this Benefits and Rewards section. And this first link up here, this GuideStar Participation logo and widgets, that's where you want to go. So it'll take you here, and you click Get the Widget. Now what a widget is a line of code that you can include on your website. So with this line of code, you put it in, your webmaster puts it in, it's HTML code. It'll show this image or whatever image of seal you're at, and it'll also link to your profile. Now that's one way to share, but there's a lot of other ways that you could share. So we always want to give you access to, I just clicked right here on the left-hand side, there's a section that says Outreach Toolkit. So I just went on ahead and clicked that. And that'll load in just a second. And in general, where that takes you is to a section where you can download images, and there's also some sample text for things like tweets and Facebook messages, things that you can put in your newsletter, and they're just to help you better share and spread the word. And you're welcome to use as much or as little of that as you'd like, but we try to share a couple of different styles, sizes and image files for you to use. So if you need it for web, if you need it for print, etc., there's a couple of different ways you can do that.
Perfect. That's all we've got so far. Thank you.
Yeah. So if you don't remember anything else from this presentation, I just wanted to leave you with a couple of quick access guidelines. So the first is around taglines. So the reason that taglines are important is because at this point, 60% of donations happen on mobile devices. So something that's quick and catchy and really kind of articulates your work in a very bite-sized, digestible way is incredibly important. So think about that. This might even be a great time to prompt you to create one, but know that it's not required. Well, it is a required field, but if you don't have one, you just check that little box. I wanted to leave you with a couple of examples. So donate blood, save lives. That's that's the Red Crosses. And that's kind of just quick and bite-sized. A little bit longer, but still a pretty short tagline comparatively, is committed to building a more just, verdant, and peaceful world. That's the one that I hear all the time on NPR, and that's the MacArthur Foundation. So next is some quick tips for the geographic area served. So remember that it's by program and not by your organization as a whole. So you're going to think about the areas that your particular program serves. So if it's a school, where those students come from, if it's an advocacy organization, where those policies affect, those kinds of things. And that if you have more than 5 locations, think about a larger service area that might cover a little bit more of that. And then, of course, for donation info, if you don't have a different area that your donations need to go, that's totally fine. We just want to make it really easy for you to get your donations as they come in. This, by the way, is the only part of your profile that does not show up publicly. This is specifically for our partners. So we send them that, but that's one of the parts of your profile that won't show up on the profile itself, but it is stored information that we share, just to, so that when you're looking for it, it's not missing, it's just not there. So lastly, I wanted to talk a bit about Platinum as a whole. And so Madeline talked in the beginning about the various seals of transparency, and you might remember that the Platinum Seal of Transparency is the highest level of recognition that GuideStar offers. This is because it's just been known to be incredibly important. This is information that donors crave for a ton of reasons. Donors are becoming a lot more savvy, a lot more data focused, and in the absence of tangible results about your work, they turn to really silly proxies that don't tell your story as well. And so we always want you to be able to share really accurate and clear information that you are comfortable with. So foundations are already starting to require Platinum. Some of them are, and so you can be ahead of the game in that way. And also, more people view Platinum profiles. They're about 2 times more likely to view on GuideStar a gold or a platinum profile. And so we really want to encourage you to have your information just more available for folks. And of course, those tangible results. Now you can see that I've drawn a little arrow to where you'll see the seal of transparency. So in case you are wondering what seal, if any, your organization has, just go on your profile, use the GuideStar search to find it. It should be on that right-hand side, and you'll see your seal of transparency. So I also just want to talk a bit about how you might do that, how you might earn Platinum. So what I like to encourage folks to do is to share what they already measure. You don't necessarily need to think of a ton of new things to measure and work with an evaluation specialist or anything like that. I like to think of this as the things that you track so that you know that you're on track. And most organizations have some kind of internal measures that they use, and you can start there. And of course, you can grow over time and share more and change how you think about those things, but we don't want you to have to reinvent the wheel. We try to make sure that it's really open so that you can share whatever is most comfortable for you. And we also have a resource called the Common Results Catalog. So what that is a catalog. It's a PDF, and there's also a searchable tool where you can look through what the most common metrics are that other organizations in various sectors share. And you can use that for inspiration. You can also kind of use that exact language, or you can be sparked by that in a ton of different ways. We always encourage you to use that language itself because it's then it's a lot more comparable to other organizations, but you don't have to. So it's really up to you. And lastly, it takes as little as 15 minutes. So it's just, it comes in the context of you having shared just a ton of other information about your mission and your vision and your programs and your operations, and this is just a really great kind of icing on the cake that, especially if you've already thought about what you share and you share things on your website, it can be really quick. So those are some good things to keep in mind. And with that, I want to open it up for more questions.
All right, so this one actually relates to what you were just talking about. How do you find the Common Results Catalog?
Great question. So there's a couple of ways that you can find the Common Results Catalog. The first is that it is in the section where you go to update your profile. You'll see it in the Platinum section, especially when you first start. There'll be just a little link to a PDF. The other thing that you can do is go to guidestar.org/platinum, and there's a link to it there. And we're also happy to share it just as follow-up with this webinar.
Perfect, thank you. Another question was, when you share donation information, what happens with it?
Great question. So the idea around that is, so we share it with partners who facilitate donations so that when they cut you a check, they send it to the right place. That's all that happens. So one of the places that most highly requested this is an organization called Bright Funds, and they help to facilitate donations from groups of individuals who can pull their money and then want to share it. So when they send an organization that check, they just want to make sure that it gets to the right place. So that's kind of the way that it's used, is just on their back end when they're cutting a check and sending it to you.
Awesome, thank you, Jasmine. Another question that just came in, which is a really great one, is I'm a new nonprofit. Can I still get the Platinum Seal?
Absolutely. Well, no, but really soon. So the thing is that what prevents you is the Silver section. So you need to have at least 1 year of financial information to be able to share. So you can fill out the Gold section, you can fill out the Platinum section, you can fill out the Bronze section, but because they build on one another, because you can't earn Silver without having earned Bronze, you can't earn Platinum without having earned all the ones before it, you won't be able to until your fiscal year ends and you can report a full year. And that's something that we're thinking a lot about and we want to change in the future, is how do we help completely new nonprofits to share information in that Silver section about their finances, but right now, not yet.
All right, 2 other questions for you. The first one is, just to reiterate, how do I get the seal with the year on it?
So what you'll do is just update your information to the current standard. So what that is going to all of those sections that say new that are labeled on there and filling those in. You'll be able to know, because when you look at that top progress bar, it reflects how you're getting to the new year seal. So if you've got a little bit more to go in Bronze or a little bit more to go in Silver, know that that's for the current year seal of transparency. So if you go ahead and fill all those in, you're good to go.
All right, perfect. And then the last question here is, are there guides for all of the seals? Kind of walking you through them.
That is an awesome question, and yes. So we have this really robust resource in the community that's just got a ton of guides. It's got a ton of just great frequently asked questions and all kinds of things like that. But there's also a space specifically in the community where you can click a guide for the Bronze section, Silver, Gold, Platinum, and it'll take you through a lot of that step-by-step information.
Perfect. Okay, I lied a little bit. One last question. So I'm getting this a lot, is why should I participate? Why should I earn these seals of transparency? And I know, Jasmine, you went over this in your previous slides. So if you want to kind of backtrack one slide and just reiterate why, there we go. Yeah, why you should be putting all this information in.
Yeah, and I'd say that there's good reason for all 4. We, of course, encourage you to get to Platinum when you can, because that's just the most information that you can be sharing with your stakeholders. But I'll just walk you through, and Madeline did this a bit as well, kind of why you might do this for any of them. So overall, what you're doing is you're signaling transparency and you're sharing more information to tell a better story. So when you don't update your profile at all, what you're seeing there is just the information from the IRS. And we as nonprofits exist to serve a social mission and to create good in the world. We don't exist to create good, tax documents. And that's what you're seeing without any kind of update. So the bronze section is a really great way to share more about your programs overall and your mission, and kind of flesh out that kind of basic information about your organization. The silver section is really where you're going to get a little deeper into your finances and help people to understand you in that way. A huge amount of that is really about growing trust, because that's really important in the social sector, is just being able to be really transparent about your finances and what you do with the money that you get from donations and grants, and how you serve a social good in that way. Gold is really that chance to dig deeper and talk about your theory of change, and in a ton of ways it articulates that you know what you're doing, right? That you're telling all of your stakeholders, both potential donors and also potential clients and everyone in between, that you have thought deeply about this and that you're on the right track. And then, of course, Platinum is, now that I know that I'm on the right track and I've thought deeply about this, these are the tangible results that I can share. And all of these kind of combine to tell this overall far more rich and robust story. And then also it's really kind of signaling to donors that you know what you're talking about and that you have something really tangible to point to, so that they're not only looking at your taxes and they're not just thinking about things like overhead ratio, which we think doesn't really tell the story of your organization with any kind of accuracy. So instead, they've got real numbers and real stories that relate to your organization, and they're from you, which you are one of the foremost experts on your organization.
And I just want to, I just want to jump in and just reiterate to everybody that GuideStar does power over 200 other websites, including Amazon Smile. And by filling out these seals of transparency in particular, if you fill out all of bronze, you're going to send most of the information that Amazon Smile collects. Silver is even better. Gold and platinum is the best. So just kind of a major point there. That's actually all the time we have today for questions. I know we didn't get to all of yours, but please rest assured we will get back to you on an individual basis. Jasmine, if you have any closing remarks, this would be a great time to do it.
I don't. Just feel free to reach out to us if you've got any questions. We'd love to help. And I really like to help people to just recognize that they are the experts on their organization. So you very likely have all of these answers, and it's a matter of looking for them on your website or thinking through them. You're good to go. You're great.
And Jasmine, I just wanted to point out here that we do have the community available, so the community is a really great resource for everyone. So if you have any questions, please feel free to use the community. You can go to, here we go, www.community.guidestar.org. All right. And thank you all for joining us today. I hope we were able to answer most of your questions and give you a little bit more information on all of our new features. We'll give you guys 5 minutes back to your day, and hope you all have a good one. Thank you so much.